Hello everyone, welcome back to Speed. Still, if you have not subscribed, then do it quickly by pressing the subscribe button and support me. And don't forget to check out my previous videos. Click on the I at the top. So let us begin. In this video, I'll be doing Module 2 of Energy and Environment, that is Energy System and its Analysis. I have already completed the Module 1, so you can watch that video by clicking the I at the top. Module 2 Energy System and its Analysis is a very lengthy module. So I have splitted the entire module into parts so it will be easy for us to understand. So let us begin with energy systems and its analysis, part 1 in this video. So here we can see the contents of this particular video. As I mentioned in the red color here, the contents which we can see here is only related to this video. So if you are looking for any particular topic, and if you didn't find that topic in the list of this contents, so you can go to the next video where I may have explained the part which you are looking for. So in this video I'll be going with the introduction, energy demand, energy storage methods. So under that we'll be having all these energy storage methods, and then we'll be going to thermal energy storage. So other remaining parts in the syllabus will be covered in the next video. So let us begin with the introduction. So let us begin with introduction. Energy storage has only recently been developed to a point where it can have a significant impact on modern technology. So that means even though energy storage has been used for a long time, but presently in the recent times it has been developed to such a rate that it's being very useful to the society. In particular, energy storage is critically important to the success of any intermittent energy source in meeting demand. For example, the need for storage of solar energy application received here, especially when solar energy is it should be least available, namely in winter. So mainly energy storage is, as given in the example, we have a solar energy in access when it is in the summer, but during the winter we will not be having the solar energy. So when if we can try to store the solar energy which is available excessively in the summer, so that we can use it in the winter. So next para, energy storage system can contribute significantly to meeting society's needs for more efficient and environmental friendly energy use in building, heating, cooling, and so on. So by using the energy storage system, we can get the following benefits, such that we can have a reduced energy cost, reduced energy consumption, improved indoor air quality, increased flexibility of operation, reduced initial and maintenance cost, reduced equipment size, most efficient and effective utilization of the equipment, conservation of fossil fuels, and reduced pollutant emission. So main benefits here are reduced pollutant emission. So if we can store the naturally available energy sources, so we can make less use of the non-renewable energy sources. So reduced energy cost. So when there is a peak requirement, that is the requirement for the energy is more, but we have less energy, so it will cost us more energy, more money. So that to reduce it, we can store the energy when it's available in much size, so that we can use it when the demand is high. And about the other benefits, as we go through the module, you will understand. So let us continue with the next slide. Before starting, for information, as I said in the previous video, the complete content for preparing for the exam is available in these videos which I will be making, so that all the modules will be covered in this video. And as you can see, I have mentioned everything in detail, so that you will not be needing any kind of textbooks during the exam. Just go through these videos. If you want, take the screenshots of the every content or the content which you require, which you see as important. Go through it during the exam, so you can score a very good marks. So let me continue. Energy demand in the commercial, industrial, public, residential, or UTC. So UTC is nothing but a trade centers where a group of companies will be situated. So all these varies daily, weekly, or seasonal basis. So ideally, these demands are matched by various energy conversion systems that operate synergistically. So different systems working together to produce energy. So this is what synergistically means. Doing together is better than doing separately. Peak hours are the most difficult and expensive to supply. So there will be a large amount of energy required, but there will be a lesser supply. So the whatever the supply we have, it will be of high cost. Peak electrical demands are generally made by conventional gas turbines for diesel generator, which are reliant on costly or relatively scarce oil gas energy. So during these peak hours, the energy is supplied by the gas or any kind of a oil generators. So as we know, oil is a costly source of energy, so it will cost more for the energy, which is in the form of electricity also. So energy storage provides an alternative method of supplying peak energy demand. Likewise, energy storage system can improve the operation of cogeneration, solar, wind, and run-over hydro facility. So if we manage to store the energy when they are available in a maximum amount, so we can use those stored energies during these peak hours. So same way we can improve the qualities and we can make maximum use of the facilities like cogeneration, solar, wind, and runover, that is dams. So let us look at some of the details on this energy storage application. So what is the main applications of energy storage? Utility. Relatively inexpensive baseload electricity can be used to charge energy storage systems during evening or off-peak, weekly or seasonal periods. The electricity is then used during peak periods, reducing the reliance on conventional gas or oil peaking generators. So it means utilizing the energy which is available during when there is a lesser demand. So as we can as we store that, so we can use that when the demand for the energy is more, so that utilizing all the energy which is available us instead of using the uh, expensive gas or oil peaking generators. Industry. High temperature waste heat from the various industrial processes can be stored for the use in preheating or other heating operation. So as we know, in the industries there is a high heat is generated, so we can use this heat for preheating or any kind of room heating processes, so that we can utilize the energy which is getting wasted into the environment. So in cogeneration, so in cogeneration we'll be doing a together production of heat and electricity, but when there is a demand is less, we can store that energy and then we can use it in the when there is a demand is high. So similarly it goes same with the wind and runover. So stored energy which is excessively available during the non-peak hours and use that energy during the peak hours. So solar energy system, by storing the excess solar energy received on sunny days for the use on cloudy days or at the night, so energy storage system can increase the capacity factor of a solar energy system. So in simple, store energy when there is more availability and try to use it when the energy demand is more. Let us now look into energy storage. Mechanical and hydraulic energy storage system usually stored energy by converting electricity into energy of compression, elevation or rotation. So we'll be converting electricity into any of these mechanical uh, displacement or forces. So later we'll reconvert it to the electricity. Pump storage is a proven but quite limited in its application by side consideration. Compressed air energy stored has been tried successfully in Europe, although limited application appear in the United States. This concept can be applied on large scale using depleted natural gas fields for storage reservoirs. Alternatively, energy can be stored chemically as a hydrogen in exhausted gas fields. Energy of rotation can be stored in flywheels, but advanced design with high tensile material appear to be needed to reduce the price and volume of storage. A substantial energy penalty of up to 50% is generally incurred by mechanical and hydraulic systems in complete storage cycle because of inefficiencies. So about pump storage system, compressed air energy system, and about the flywheels we'll be learning in the upcoming slides. And the sentence here given is storing in using the natural gas depleted fields. So here we'll be storing the energy in the place which have been depleted from the natural gas. So there will be a hollow structure inside the ground, so we'll be using that for the storing of energy. So next is reversible chemical reactions. So This can also be used to store energy. There is a growing interest in strong low temperature heat in chemical form, but practical systems have not yet emerged. Another idea in the same category is the storage of hydrogen in metal hydrides. Test is being Test of these ideas is going on. So in general, chemical reaction storage, we can give example as batteries, or using the we have something known as hydrogen fuel cells. All these are known as chemical reversible chemical reactions. Under this we'll be having electrochemical energy storage and so on. So let us move into the electrochemical energy storage systems. So these systems have better turnaround efficiencies but are very high price. So chemicals are of very high price. Intensive research is now directed towards improving batteries, particularly by lowering their weight to storage capacity ratio as needed in many vehicle applications. So as the e-vehicle industry is growing, so we'll be requiring the storage system, so that we'll be needing for the battery. So the main thing is we have to reduce the weight for the capacity it can store. So in simple we can say we have the technology that as we brake, the energy will be stored and the same energy will be used when we are starting the car. So this can also be given as an example for energy storage system. As a successor to the lead acid battery, sodium sulfur, lithium sulfide alternatives among others are being tested. A different type of electrochemical system is the redox flow cell, so named because charging and discharging is achieved through reduction and oxidation reactions occurring in fluids stored in two separate tanks. To make a reading candidates competitive with today's battery, its price would have to be least. So in order to survive in the electrochemical battery industry, the price of the battery has to be reduced. So it requires for the companies to produce a high quality with very less economic value so they can survive in the market. Thermal energy storage system. So we'll be using the term TES in the upcoming slides. So simple words, storing the energy in form of heat. Thermal energy storage systems are varied, include design containers, underground aquifer and soils and lakes, bricks and ingots. Some systems using bricks are operating in Europe, so we will be looking into this part in upcoming, where rock bed is used to store heat energy. In this system, energy is stored as a sensible heat. Alternatively, thermal energy can be stored in a latent heat of melting in such materials such as salts and pyramids. So this part will be explained in shape phase change materials. So latent storage can reduce the volume of storage device such as by as much as 100 times, but after several decades of research, many of their practical problems are still to be solved. Finally, electrical energy can be stored in superconducting magnetic systems, although the cost of such systems are high. So let us now look into the development in the field. So some current research and development areas in the fields of energy storage are as follows. Advanced energy storage and conversion systems with phase transformation, chemical and electrochemical reactions, fundamental phenomena inside a single cell, as well as engineering integration of whole battery packs into a vehicle. So as we can see that we have a very advanced level of batteries in our e-vehicles. High dielectric constant polymers, high K composites for capacitors, polymer electrode interfaces, integrated polymer capacitor. So these points are the properties of batteries which will improve the capacity of their batteries with a very less size. So let us move into the next slide. Energy storage methods. For many energy technologies, storage is a crucial aspect. If we consider the storage of fuels as a storage of energy embedded in them, then oil is an excellent example. A massive amount of petroleum stored worldwide are necessary for reliable economic availability of gasoline, fuel, oil or petrochemical. So in simple words, if we compare solar energy and oils, so we can store oil very easily inside the container, so we can use the energy whenever we require. So and when compared to solar energy, so storing a solar energy is a bit difficult. Hence every form of energy has its own method of storing. So let us look into the classification of energy storage method. So mechanical energy storage. So here mechanical energy can be stored into hydro storage, compressed air storage and flywheels, whereas chemical energy can be stored as electrochemical batteries, organic molecular storage. Then we have biological storage, magnetic storage and thermal energy storage as sensible heat storage and latent heat storage. So in that main part we require is a thermal energy storage. But we'll also look into the mechanical, chemical, biological and magnetic storage, as the questions can also be asked from this part. Mechanical energy storage. In simple words, we'll be using electricity to store a mechanical energy, and then we'll be using that stored mechanical energy to produce electricity when the demand is more. So mechanical energy may be stored as a kinetic energy of linear rotation motion, as a potential energy in an elevated object, as a compression or strain energy of an elastic material, or as a compression energy in the gas. So the first point, in the rotation motion, flywheel we have, and then we have elevated object, we have dams, and then for compression and strain energy and the elastic material examples, we have compressed air energy storage system. So it is difficult to store large quantities of energy in a linear motion because one would have to chase after the storage medium continually. However, it is quite simple to store rotational kinetic energy. In fact, potter's wheel perhaps, so for potter's wheel is nothing but pot maker, which pot maker will be using a wheel. So with a simple push it will produce him a longer rotation, so he can make a pot very quickly. So potter wheels, perhaps the first form of energy storage used by man, was developed several thousand years ago and it is still being used. There are three main mechanical storage types: hydro storage, compressed air storage and flywheel storage. In hydro storage we will be using the energy stored in the elevated object. Compressed air will be using the energy which is stored in the form of compression, and in flywheel we will be using the energy of rotation. Hydro storage or pump storage. So this will be having three components. Upper reservoir. Like a conventional hydropower plant, a dam creates a reservoir. The water in this reservoir flows through the hydropower plant to create electricity. Using reversible turbine, the plant can pump the water back to the upper reservoir. This is done in off-peak hours. Essentially, the second reservoir refills the upper reservoir. Lower reservoir. Water exiting the hydropower plant flows into a lower reservoir rather than re-entering the river or the flowing downstream. Reversible turbine pump. Water back to the upper reservoir. This is done in off-peak hours. By pumping the water back to the upper reservoir, plant has more water to generate electricity during the periods of peak consumption. So let me just explain this in simple words. So there will be an upper reservoir and the lower reservoir. During the rainy season, so we'll be having access of water. So water will flow inside the turbines and it will provide the electricity. So when there is no peak for the electricity, so when the electricity demand is low, the same electricity is used to pump the water back to the upper reservoir. So during summer seasons there will not be any water to produce electricity, but when you have the excess electricity, using that electricity we'll pump the water from the lower reservoir to the upper reservoir, so that we'll be having the water enough to produce electricity when there is a peak requirement for the electricity. So in simple, produce energy when there is no demand for the energy, use the produced energy to store energy, and then when there is a peak electricity required, use the stored energy to produce the required energy. Compressed air storage. In a compressed air energy storage system, air is compressed during off-peak hours and stored in a large underground reservoirs, which may be naturally occurring caverns, salt domes, abandoned mine shaft, depleted gas or oil fields, or man-made caverns. Something underground hollow structure. During peak hours, the air is released to drive a gas generator. The technique used by such system to compress air to store energy is relatively straightforward. In conventional gas turbine, high pressure hot gas is supplied and about 2/3 of the gross power output is used to drive the compressor. A compressed air energy storage system decouples the compressor and turbine and operates the former during off-peak hours to produce compressed air, which is stored in natural caverns, old oil or gas wells, or porous rock formation. Such energy storage is advantageous when the appreciable part of the power load is carried by nuclear power station and where the suitable spent salt caverns make it easy to build a compressed air reservoir. So in simple words, here the electricity is being produced by flowing of the compressed air on the turbines. So when there is a low demand for the electricity or off peak hours, a part of the electricity produced in the turbine is used to run a compressor, where a compressor will compress the air and it will store the air inside the underground structure, which are natural or man-made. So while in the off peak hours, some part of the electricity produced will be used in the compressor to store the compressed air inside. So when there is a peak, that is the high demand for electricity, the compressed air which has been compressed will be made to flow over the turbine, so it will produce the required electricity during the peak hours. So in simple word, all these systems are like charging a battery and using the battery when there is no current. So flywheel. The flywheel, a wheel of relatively large mass that stores rotational kinetic energy, has long been used to smooth out the shaft power output from one or two cycle engines and to adjust uneven loads. New uses of this device and other two mechanical storage techniques discussed in section take advantages of the ability of electric motor or generator operation to reverse. Such device can be designed to work both as a motor when driven by electric power and as a generator when driven by mechanical power. So in simple words, flywheel is nothing but a dynamo. So when there is a low demand for electricity in the outside, so we'll use that electricity to run this motor. So this motor will be having a large mass. So when we run the motor with the electricity, the large mass will be rotating. So as soon as there is a demand for the electricity in the outside, we will cut off the supply for this motor, but still the large mass will be rotating due to the rotational momentum which was produced in the previous electricity, and now this rotational movement will slow down and it will produce the electricity which is required outside. So in simple, we'll be giving electricity to rotate the motor, and then we'll stop electricity, but the motor will be rotating, but this rotating motor will produce electricity which in turn can be used outside. So just go through it is a simple mechanism, just go through it, watch some videos, you will understand it. Next is chemical energy storage. Energy may be stored in systems composed of one or more chemical compounds that release or absorb energy when they react to form other compound. The most familiar chemical energy storage device is a battery. Energy stored in batteries is frequently referred as electrochemical energy because chemical reactions in the battery are caused by electrical energy. Subsequently, these chemical reaction will produce electrical energy. There is a mistake that it shouldn't be goodies there. So electrochemical batteries. Batteries chemically store energy and release it as electrical energy on demand. Batteries are a stable form of storage and they provide high energy and power densities such as those needed for the transportation. The lead sulfuric acid battery has long been considered to be advantageous and has been widely applied. Recently, fuel cells have demonstrated the ability to act as a large-scale chemical storage like batteries. So in chemical storage, we'll be using electrical energy, so it will create a chemical reaction. Later, we will use that chemical reaction to produce the free electrons. These free electrons will produce electrical energy. So next is organic molecular storage. The intermittent availability of solar radiation, its seasonal and geographical variation, and its relatively low intensity will limit the exploitation of that resource until it can be converted to the other form of energy that can be efficiently stored and transported. However, most technologies that are presently available for utilizing solar energy depend on the direct conversion of solar radiation to low-grade heat or electricity. Both are difficult to store. So organic molecular storage is nothing but using the electrical energy, using the solar energy to be stored in few molecular structures. So in simple, storing the solar energy inside a molecular structure of substance which have the ability to store energy. Biological storage. Biological storage is the storage of energy in chemical form by means of biological processes and is considered as important method of storage for long duration of time. For a simple example, plants. Plants store energy Plants store solar energy in them in the form of food. So this is one of the best example for biological energy storage systems. Magnetic energy storage. Energy can be stored in magnetic field. An advanced scheme that employs superconducting materials is under development. At temperatures near absolute zero, certain metals have almost no electrical resistance and thus large currents can circulate in them with almost no losses. Because of this scheme, since this scheme stores DC electricity, some losses are incurred in converting standard DC power to and DC power, converting a standard AC power to DC, and some energy is used to drive the refrigeration which is required to keep the system in a very low temperature. Overall storage in efficiency of 80 to 90% are anticipated for this superconducting magnetic energy storage system. So in simple, when some metals are kept under very low temperature, they will be having a superconducting nature, so that is there will almost no resistance. So at the moment, if we store the if we pass the electric current through that, a changing electric field will produce a magnetic field. So when the current is passed through these superconducting conductors, there will be a magnetic field created. So this can be done during the off-peak hours, and later when the peak hours is more, when the conducting is stops, but still there will be a magnetic field which are produced during the previous conduction. So these magnetic fields will now get converted into electric field. So it is like producing magnetic field using electrical energy and then you producing electrical energy using magnetic force. Magnetic storage is considered for two main purposes. First, the large superconducting magnets capable of storing 1000 to 10,000 megawatt hours of electricity could be attractive as a load leveling devices for central power station and may be cost effective at such capacities. So such as an secondary option in case of power loss from the main supply. Second, smaller magnets with storage capacity 10 kilowatt hours range may be cost effective in smoothing out transmission line loads to better match short-term customer demands or generating equipment characteristics. A small superconducting magnet that can help in meeting customer peak needs at the far end of transmission line could increase the effective load that the line can serve by as much as 25%, producing cost savings that could offset in a whole or a part of additional cost, expanding the transmission line capacity. In simple words, having a magnetic storage facility in a customer's place will help us during the peak hours. So when there is a low storage or a low peak current required, the energy will be stored in customer's facility in the magnetic storage systems. So when the peak is required, they will directly get it from magnetic storage from their own facility. So if we during the peak hours, if we try to supply it from the base, so the loss will be more in the more during the transmission through the lines. So instead of using the facility which is there in their own campus, it will reduce the cost of transmission and overall the cost of electrical supply. Thermal energy storage. Why thermal storage is needed? So primary energy source like hydro, gas, coal, nuclear fuels transform directly into electricity as a power source for industrial household appliance. In principle, electricity generation has to be balanced with exact time of consumption to satisfy the fluctuating demand at lowest possible cost. Fluctuating seasonal and specific time demands outside their control. Utility companies generate electricity using different types of primary energy sources to offset peak. Almost every modern society has a midday or late evening peak electricity demands. This essential demand forces utility to build a new additional peak demand power station, which is considerable investment that operates only during peak demand periods and shut down of the rest of the time. They use expensive primary energy source and are subjected to standard cost of maintenance. Consequently, production cost per kilowatt is 3 to 4 times higher than the standard base load electricity production cost. So in simple word, we can have a balanced energy supply. So in case of seasonal and specific time, the demand is out of the control, so we'll always having the stored energy for the use. Utility companies use their use the primary source of energy and they go for the additional setup to produce energy during the peak hours. So it requires a large investment. So instead of having something to produce energy which is of high investment, we can have something with a low investment to store the energy. So during the peak hours, the cost of the energy is 3 to 4 times more. So to reduce that, we can store the energy when the cost is less, so that we can make use of it when the cost is more. Simple definition for thermal storage. Thermal storage for HVAC applications store at various temperature associated with heating and cooling. The collection of heat from solar energy for later use hours, days, many months later at individual building, multi-user building, etc. Energy demand can be balanced between daytime and nighttime. Summer heat from solar collectors can be stored interseasonally for use in winter and could obtain from winter air can be provide the summer air conditioning. And I know this sentence doesn't make any sense, but in simple words, thermal storage means storing the thermal energy when we have its availability, and then using the stored thermal energy when we require the energy. In simple words, we can store the thermal energy during the daytime, and that energy can be used during the night for room heating and other purposes. So this thing naturally happens at a home or at the highways, where we can see that during the daytime the road will get heat, and at the night time when the weather is cold, still the road will be having heat. So we can see the animals will be lying down or sleeping on the roads because the roads provide the heat required by them during the cold environments. Types of thermal energy storage system: cold storage, fabric and slab energy storage, solar storage, packed rock beds, low temperature carbon dioxide storage system, thermochemical energy storage, sensible heat and latent heat. Cold storage: storage receiving and accumulating cooling capacity from the refrigeration plant. Fabric and slab energy storage: building material absorb heat cooling during the particular period and release it during the another period. Solar storage: solar collectors along with its associated pump to convert solar radiation into heat. The stove which receives the heated water from the collector delivers the heated water to the space heating or heat exchanger. It contributes to the building's hot water requirements about 6 to 12%. So first part, cold storage is nothing but heat exchanger as an example, and then fabric or slab energy, as I told in the previous slide, the heating of road surface during the day, and that heat is released during the night. And then solar storage, so here we can give the example as solar cooker or solar water heater. So next is packed rock beds. A packed rock bed utilizes the available thermal energy by means of circulating through a packed bed to add heat or remove heat from the system for charging and discharging respectively. The energy can be transferred from fluid, but the most common system utilizes air due to the high heat transfer coefficient between rock and air. So here there will be a collection of rock inside a particular container. Initially when we have the excess amount of heat energy, we'll pass that heat to these rocks in the form of fluid or air. So the rocks will get heated. And the heat energy is stored in the rocks. And when we require heat, that is the heat is in demand, so we'll pass the cold fluid or water onto these heated rocks. So the heat energy from the rocks will again be transmitted back to the water or the fluid. So we can heat the rocks when heat is there, and then we can collect the heat from the rocks. Low temperature carbon dioxide storage system. Carbon dioxide offers the most compact latent heat storage system due to the commercially obtainable triple point, which allows the utilization of single substance as a static latent heat fusion storage. Carbon dioxide can be stored at its triple point of minus 57 degrees Celsius and 518 kilopascal with solid fraction of 70 to 80% by mass, and the system can provide 140 kilojoules per kg of thermal storage capacity. So triple point is nothing but a point of temperature where the material exists in all its forms, that is solid, liquid and gaseous. So it is a point where the material exists in solid, liquid and gaseous stage. So here the phase change of the carbon dioxide is used to store the energy. So as the carbon dioxide changes from one phase to other, it will absorb energy, and when it changes back, it will release energy. Thermochemical energy storage. Recent research show that various alcohols and ketones are potential thermochemical storage media, but due to the relative cost and complexity, no commercially viable systems have yet emerged. Typical examples are mixture of sulfuric acid and water, alternatively sodium hydroxide and water. Systems in which water is separated by heat input to the mixture, and as soon as the two substances are mixed, the chemical reaction of the substance liberates heat. So here we will be using heat to separate water from the mixture, and as soon as the water mixes with the mixture, it will produce heat. Sensible heat storage. A heat storage system that uses heat storage medium and where the additional or removal of heat results in change in temperature. So example for the sensible heat storage system is solar pond technology. As we learned in the first year, solar pond technology is one of the energy storage system where we connect it to the previous of a steam electricity producing plant. So it will initial preheating of the water will be done using solar pond. Solar pond technology. The vertical configuration of salt gradient solar pond consists of 3 zones. Adjacent to the surface, there is a homogeneous convective zone that serves as a buffer zone between environmental fluctuation at the surface and the conductive heat transport from the layer below. This is the upper convective zone, which is at the top. At the bottom of the pond, there is another convective zone, the lower convective zone or LCZ. This is the layer with the highest salt concentration and where the high temperatures are built. And below that will be, in between that will be having neutral convective zone. So when the sun rays get into the so this will be of a salt content. When the sun rays enter the surface of the water, the heat will be transmitted to the lower surface, and as the water gets heated, due to the presence of the salt at the upper layer, the hot water will not go up as in the normal case. So here we can take this hot water at the bottom using pump pipelines. So as this hot water moves out of the system, there will be a new set of water will enter the system. So as the heat gets accumulated in the bottom, it will get removed. So the cycle continues producing the hot water. So there will be a sheet layer on the top to prevent the fluctuation or the presence of air taking away the water due to the convective action. So convection means energy heat transfer without any direct contact but with a fluid and a solid contact. Conduction is a transfer due to solid contact, whereas radiation is a transfer due to without any contact. For a given salinity and the temperature in the upper and lower convective zones, there exists a stable intermediate gradient zone. This zone keeps the two convective zones apart and gives the solar pond its unique thermal performance. This intermediate zone provides excellent insulation for the storage layer, while simultaneously transmitting the solar radiation. To maintain the solar pond in this non-equilibrium stationary state, it is necessary to replace the amount of salt that is transported by molecular diffusion from LCZ to UCZ. This means that salt must be added to the LCZ and fresh water to UCZ while brine is removed. So salt has to be added at the bottom, whereas the water has to be added to the upper convective zone. The brine can be recycled, divided into water and salt and returned to the pond. The major heat loss occurs from the surface of the small pond. This heat loss can be prevented by spreading a plastic grid over the pond surface to prevent disturbance by wind. Disturbed water tends to lose heat transfer faster when calm. Latent heat storage. A heat storage system that uses energy absorbed or released during a change in phase without a change in temperature. So phase change materials are the materials which change, which absorb heat and they change in their change in their structure. When when the material is made to convert back to its original form, it will release the energy stored in it. So energy will change the material. So change in the material in terms produces energy. So we have solar field, thermal storage and power block as we can see in the figure. So in the next slide I'll be explaining. Just take a look at this figure. Phase change materials. When a material melts or vaporizes, it absorbs heat. When it changes to solid or liquid, it releases this heat. This phase change is used for storing heat in PCMs. Typical PCM are water or ice, salt hydrides and certain polymers. The eutectic salt does not expand or contract when it freezes or melts. So there is no fatigue on plastic container. The eutectic salt filled containers are placed in a tank, typically in a below grade concrete or a granite structure. The container occupy about 2/3 of the tank volume, so that 1/3 of the tank is occupied by the water used as heat transfer medium. Since energy densities for latent heat thermal energy storage exceed those for sensible thermal energy storage, smaller and lighter storage devices and lower storage losses normally result. Other early applications of PCM include eutectic plates used for cold storage in trucking and railroad transportation applications. Another important application of PCMs is association with space technology, with NASA sponsoring the project on PCM application for thermal control electronic package. So here, as we can see in the figure, there will be a capsule shell, a core PCM solid state. When the temperature rises, the PCM melts and absorbs heating energy and the core will be in the liquid state. When the temperature falls, the material will again solidify. As the PCM solidifies, heat energy is released back to the environment. Situation favor the use of thermal storage system. The storage systems are most likely to be cost effective in situations when a facility's maximum cooling load is much greater than the average load. Limited electric power is available at the site. Backup cooling capacity is desirable. Loads are of short duration, infrequently cyclical in nature. Loads are not well matched to the availability of the energy source. Just make a by heart of these points, so you can directly write the points which are here if the question is asked in the exam. Why we need to store solar energy? Because solar energy is a time dependent energy source. Load does not match the available energy. Cost considerations, short term and long term storage. Storage capacity. Storage capacity of solar radiation. Availability of solar radiation, nature of thermal process, physical and chemical properties of storage medium employed. So these are the factors on which storage capacity depends. Storage media. Choice of storage media depends on large extent of nature of solar thermal process. So they are water storage, air-based thermal storage, storage walls and floors, buried earth thermal storage. Water storage. The best example for water storage is solar water heater. So here, water is the ideal material in which to store usable heat because it is low in cost and has a high specific heat. The use of water is particularly convenient when water is used also as a mass and heat transfer medium in the solar collector and in the load heat exchanger. So here the heat from the solar energy is stored in water, so which makes it a hot water which can be used for bathing and other purposes. So next is a storage wall, which is used for room heating. A storage wall is a sun-facing wall built from material that can act as a thermal mass, combined with an airspace, insulated glazing and vents to form a large solar thermal collector. During the day, sunlight would shine through the glazing and warm the surface of the thermal mass. At the night, if the glazing insulates well enough and outdoor temperatures are not too low, the average temperature of the thermal mass will be significantly higher than the room temperature and heat will flow into the house interior. So in simple words, morning the wall gets heated, so it will through the wall it will not be sent inside the room, but at the night as the cool air passes over the hot wall, the air becomes hot and it will be passed back into the room. Benefits of thermal energy storage. Although thermal energy storage is used in a wide variety of applications, all are designed to operate on a cyclical basis. The systems achieve benefits by fulfilling one or more following purposes. So the first one is increase in generation capacity. Demand for heating, cooling and power is seldom constant over time, and the excess generation available during low demand periods can be used to charge thermal energy storage in order to increase the effective generation capacity during high demand periods. This process allows a smaller production unit to be installed and results in a higher load factor for the unit. So using a smaller, we can produce energy, and if not in use, that energy will be stored, and later when there is a high energy, instead of changing the production unit, we can use the energy which is already stored. Enable better operation of cogeneration plants. Combined heat and power or cogeneration plants are generally operated to meet the demands of connected thermal loads, which often results in excess electrical generation during periods of low electricity use. By incorporating thermal energy storage, the plants need not be operated to follow a load. Rather, it can be dispatched in more advantageous way. So in simple words, instead of increasing the generation capacity of the plant to high or low, we can run the plant through a constant power supply. So when there is no need, we can store it, and then where is a need, we can use the stored energy instead of changing the production capacity of the plant. Shift energy purchase to low cost period. This measure constitutes the demand side application of the first purpose listed and allows energy consumers subject to time of the day pricing to shift energy purchase from high to low. So in simple words, instead of purchasing the energy when required, so it will be a high peak period, so we can purchase the energy at low cost when the energy is available at low cost. So at that time we can purchase the energy and we can store it so that we can use the energy purchased at low cost during the high energy cost periods. Increase system reliability. Any form of energy storage, from uninterruptible power supply of a small personal computer to a large pump storage object, normally increases the system reliability. So running the power system at a constant power will increase its reliability. Integration with other functions. In application where on-site water storage is needed for the fire protection, it may be feasible to incorporate thermal storage into a common storage tank. Likewise, equipment designed to solve power quality problems may be adaptable to energy storage system. So using one form of energy to store other form of energy, and using the other form of energy to store the form of energy which is not available at the time. Like for example, during summer, solar energy is available in abundance. Using solar energy, we can store the water from low to higher upper reservoir, and in rains, so we can produce the electricity from water when there is no sun's ray available. This is it for this video, and we will cover the remaining part in the next video. So thank you for watching this video. If you have any doubt, put it in the comment section, and the remaining part we'll see you in the next video. So thank you for watching. See you guys in the next video.